Um, One thing that'd be helpful for me, guys, as we go along and even now, is to know how long you've had a website, whether you're a startup business, whether you're an established business, whether you've got a website built in a kind of do-it-yourself platform like Weebly or Wix, whether you've got a WordPress site, just a little bit about yourselves, the size of your business, how long you've been going, and then your kind of website journey to date. And then what I can hopefully do when I start talking in a bit is try and make this as relevant and beneficial to as many of you as possible.
Excellent. I hear a lot of people talking about Weebly and Wix and stuff, but I must admit, when I was thinking about a website quite a few years ago, they didn't seem to pop up at the top end of the reviews, those things.
They've become more popular over the years because on the surface they're affordable. Some people would say cheap, but the reality is they can end up costing you a lot of money as you get into the features of them a bit more. One of the main problems with Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, Shopify is you're tied to that platform. So if you're not happy with the service, if you're not happy with the speed, you'll quite often find that you can't do anything to change that because you can't move away from them. And if you do, you tend to be starting again. WordPress is by far the most popular content management system out there. It's certainly the world leader at the moment, and it's a big favorite of SEO guys, social media guys, content guys, because it's very easy to manage. And it's good to see that somebody says they've got a WordPress site and it's a recent rebuild. The first one they had was about 20 years ago in HTML. So the more people in WordPress today, the better. There will be people in these do-it-yourself sites which are improving and are getting better. I just might have to manage their expectations on some of the things that I say today of what's possible and what's not possible.
And I guess I would have assumed that some of these sites would do a lot of this for you, but maybe that's a question for the end.
Yeah, certainly. WordPress has probably been the most strong in bringing SEO to the forefront, but WordPress itself doesn't have SEO built in. They use a plugin called Yoast. So you could have a WordPress website or be on the WordPress platform, but you'd still need to download the Yoast plugin to start being able to do the kind of SEO stuff yourself.
Right.
Okay, we've got a Wix person in the room. Okay. Shortly when I start talking, I'll mention about page speed, and I'll give a link, and then the person who's just said they're in Wix, I'll get them to go and test what their website page speed is like. Somebody's just said eek, oh dear. Yeah, I'm about to build a website. I'm doing training using Wix, but I'm thinking I might go into WordPress instead. I'm not going to give a straight answer. Well, I will do actually. Don't go into Wix, go into WordPress. There'll be more costs associated with WordPress, but overall the savings will be better, and the results will be better.
So I've used a website builder through 123reg, but
yep.
Is that something else with a skin on the front of it, or is that another one altogether?
The big domain companies have just started bringing out their own DIYs. So, and even print companies like Vistaprint will have their own web build, one-to-one. So all the big domain companies have sort of copied Wix, Weebly, because there's a huge market for it. The main problem with the self-builds comes down to the speed at which the site loads. So you've got loads and loads of websites on one server, which you've got no control over. So therefore they dictate how fast your site loads. But also because they've made it so easy for you to build the site, a lot of their code is quite clunky, and that slows down the sites as well. You know, they're big on the aesthetics, so they'll make your button look really flash or aesthetically pleasing. But again, that graphic might be slow to download, and also it's not giving you the ability to put content into that graphic. And Google, from an SEO perspective, likes content. So an image, a graphic, whatever, the text or the content within that graphic should be readable.
Well, ready whenever you are then, John, if you want to kick off and get going.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon now. I'll get you to contribute on the chat a bit more as we go along, but I'll give you a very big picture introduction to myself. So I've been in marketing for 22 years now. And 18 years ago, I started a digital marketing agency called Urban Element, which is based in Witney and employs 10 people. Since 2010, the only websites that we've built have been SEO friendly or SEO optimized. So since 2010, we've seen SEO as a standard in website build rather than a luxury. So Urban Element's been going 18 years. 3 years ago, I stepped away from the business, having been the MD for 15 years, and I started LR'd Out Loud, and I currently work with 6 clients as their digital marketing advisor. And the main reason for my move from being MD to being a consultant was I wanted to work closely with my clients, I wanted to work with less clients, and I wanted to be part of their journey and working with them on a day-to-day basis. Those clients include the M Group Accountants, Wise Investment, who are a wealth management company, the Plough at 38, which is an amazing gastro pub in the centre of Oxford on Cornmarket Street, Adept Graphics, who wrap vehicles and do vehicle graphics, and a startup business called Premium Medical Billing, who, bless them, started in February last year, 2 weeks just before the initial pandemic and lockdown started. And I mention them now because as I talk through SEO today, I'm going to bring them up as examples and share where they've got in their SEO journey. Now, hopefully to make this as useful a session as possible for yourselves, it would be good to know where you're at with your own website and SEO journey. And some of those people have already started sharing some stuff on chat. Can I encourage you to carry on doing that? So I just need to know if you're a startup. I need to know if you're an established business. I need to know if you're micro or an SME. It'd be good to know how long you've had a website for. It would be good to know what your website is built in, whether it's built in a content management system or whether it's just an HTML site. And then what I can do is hone some of my responses and some of my content today to those things. It'd also be helpful actually to know if you're B2C, business to consumer, or whether you're business to business, B2B. But before I start talking about SEO in any great depth, I believe there's 3 things that you should have in place before you even consider doing SEO or continuing SEO. And the first of those is your website should be mobile friendly. And there's a simple way to do that, and I'll put it into the chat now. If you go to search.google mobile friendly, and I'll just put the link in the chat, you can put your domain in there and it will just come back with a green light saying that your site's mobile friendly. Or it will come back and say your site is not mobile friendly. The reason I mention that is more and more not being mobile friendly will impinge or stop your site getting optimized. It will definitely have an impact on how your search results or your rankings appear on a mobile device. And it will also have an impact on how you're appearing on a desktop or a kind of normal PC search. I'll bring these up a minute when I share the screen. The second thing, and I've already sort of touched on this earlier with the kind of do-it-yourself web platforms, is page speed. If your website is slow to load or the server response time is bad, no matter what you've done with your SEO considerations or your content, you're going to get penalized by Google, and it's going to take that as a major metric to stopping you rank for good terms. So you've got to make sure that your site's loading quite quickly. And I will look at these links in a minute with you when I share my screen, and we'll perhaps use OxLEP as an example. And the final one is your site needs to be secure. So you need a secure socket layer certificate on your website. And that's basically next to your domain, you'll see a padlock. I'll just share my screen now so we can look at that in a bit more detail. And can you let me know if you're seeing a screen that says is your web page mobile friendly?
Yeah, that's looking fine.
Great, thanks. So let's find OxLEP. And let's just go and run these quick tests. So this is one to test if your site is mobile friendly. And next to that, I've got how fast is your website to load. So Google brought out a number of algorithms or updates. The first one saying if the site's not mobile friendly, we're going to penalize it. And then they've also brought out various updates that will penalize sites that are too slow. So good news, OxLEP is mobile friendly. And on a desktop, the site is scoring 93 out of 100 on a desktop, and mobile 57 out of 100. Websites are always going to be slower to load on a mobile, and as long as you're in amber on mobile, you're in a good place. And as long as you're in green on a desktop, you're in a good place. I imagine for those of you who have a Wix website currently, you're going to see some slower speeds there. And it'd be interesting in the chat if you could actually share that. So if you've got a Wix site or Weebly, do this test that we've just done and just report back in chat if you're seeing a slow site or not. The other thing I mentioned was the secure socket layer, but just before I do that, I'll do a quick, to show you what I know what I'm talking about, I'll do a quick search for the company I co-own. So if you were to search SEO Oxford, which is what we're talking about today, you'll see the paid adverts appear first. So 1, 2, 3, 4 paid adverts, that's Google Ads. Different conversation today, but I'm more than happy to talk about that. You've then got your local listings, and then you've got your organic SEO rankings. And there's the agency that I co-own, Urban Element, and we're ranking #1. One thing to mention is your browser will remember your search history. So because I search this term a lot, my browser is bringing that up closer to the top. So that might not be a true reflection of where I'm ranking. If you're on a desktop, you can do a right click and you can open incognito. So this is like removing any browsing history you had and saying, let's start from scratch. Let's see where you rank for SEO Oxford. And again, we've got the paid ads, then we've got the local, and then there's the company that I co-own, ranking #1 for SEO Oxford. And I will come back to that as an example shortly. But if I just quickly click on our site, you'll see there's a padlock in the top left, and that's because we have an SSL certificate, a secure layer certificate. So now we've got a relatively fast site, we've got a mobile friendly site, and we've got a secure site. We can start talking about keyword research and optimizing the site. Now, I mentioned earlier that in my brief on the advert for today's session, that I would talk about the free ones and the ones that are going to cost you a bit of money, and I'll also talk a bit about common sense. The free one is a Google product called Google Ads Keyword Plan. First thing I would say about this is there is a bias towards pay-per-click Google Ads here because it's a Google product. To get access to this, all you have to do is create yourself a Gmail account, which is free to create. And then if you search Google Ads Keyword Planner, if you search Google AdWords Keyword Research, you should find, you'll get this link here coming up, which is google.com/keyword planner. Now, what I've done in this bar here is just started to look at some search terms that one of my clients might want to get ranked for. So you in your business probably have a fair idea of what you want to get found for on Google. You might have a bit of bias, or you might be too in your business to actually know what the reality is. So you could talk to a supplier or a friend and say, look, you know what I do, what would you put into Google to find me? In this instance, I just want to find out how many people search fleet graphics, fleet livery, and fleet branding. I'm going to click on results, and what I can see here is that the average monthly searches for people searching on google.co.uk fleet graphics is 70. 20 people search fleet livery, 10 people search fleet branding. So in my head, I was expecting some of those search terms to have a bigger search volume, but they're relatively low. You think that's the only amount of people that are searching for fleet graphics on a monthly basis on google.co.uk. What this tool does is it gives you other ideas. So it says, have you thought about ranking for fleet graphics? Well, let's add that to the search. Let's perhaps add van wraps, because I don't have a vehicle, I don't have a fleet, but I want my van wrap. So this tool will start giving you some more ideas, and it's free to use. We run that search and we come back with 1,000 people per month search vehicle graphics. 2,400 people search van wrap. Now my client, yes, they wrap fleets. They'll happily have a client that's got 200 vans in its fleet, and they will brand that fleet, they'll wrap that fleet, they will do the graphics for that fleet. But equally, they're happy to wrap a van, and quite often somebody owns a van will own more than one van. Quite often somebody might not search fleet, they might not search van, they might search vehicle graphics. So this tool is starting to give me the actual volume on searches for a particular search term. And it's also giving me keyword ideas. Now, unfortunately, my client doesn't wrap boats, but they do car graphics, they do auto graphics, they do truck graphics. So this tool is giving you the answers you want to know on that specific search term, but it's also giving you some ideas. What I also like about it is, because it's a Google Ads tool, is it's also telling you what it's going to cost for you to bid on that if you're looking to do a Google Ads campaign, but we're not talking about that today. So if we go down that and we start thinking, okay, I want to rank for fleet graphics, fleet livery, fleet branding, vehicle graphics, and van wrap, how do we start getting those kind of terms into our website to start ranking? So the important thing about the keywords that you want to get found for is to get them into your page title, your URL, and your H1. Now, does anyone know what a page title is? Does anyone know what their URL is? And does anyone know what an H1 is, or a header 1? I'm going to assume that some of you do, and I'm going to assume some of you don't. But if I go back to Urban Elements example, I'll show you what the page title is. So the page title is this bit in the top part of your browser. And you can see that Urban Element have gone with SEO Oxford, pipe, Oxfordshire SEO agency, pipe, Urban Element. So in their page title of this particular page, they are targeting the service they want to get found for, with a secondary key focus of Oxfordshire SEO agency and their brand last. So with a page title, you can only ever really go for 2 keywords or 2 search terms or 2 products or 2 services that you want to get found for. And unless you're an established website, you put your brand at the end. So that is a page title. Your URL, to have a keyword focused URL, has to have the words that you want to get ranked for, or the term that you're targeting in the URL. So SEO-Oxford. Title is then, your header 1 is then also got to have the keyword in. So here we've got the keyword SEO and we've got the keyword Oxford. So you've now got consistency or continuity between your page title, your URL, so your domain, and your H1, your header 1, your first bit of title. I'm just going to come back out of this a sec and stop sharing my screen to see if that's making sense on the chat or not. So I've just come back out, and the question I want to ask before I go any further is, does that make sense what I'm saying about having the keyword in your page title, your URL, and your H1? And if there's a few people in chat that say, no, please go over that again, I'll cover it in a bit more detail.
I mean, I'll openly admit, John, that I'm probably as ignorant as most people on here of this stuff. So it makes sense to me. I guess my one question in the URL bit there,
yep,
that was probably a sub page of your homepage, was it?
Correct. Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is that I could create, once I've worked out what these keywords are, I need to make pages for those keywords to make sure that those are the topics. So it's not my homepage, I'm not messing that up, but I've got 4 pages for my 4 keywords.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be some people out there with a 1-page website, and it will just be 1 page, and you scroll down, you get all your information there. Your restriction there is you only have 1 page, and therefore a maximum of 2 words to target. So the majority of websites will have multiple pages. They'll have home, about us, services, case studies, etc. And the main reason you're doing that for a Google perspective or an SEO perspective is each page that you have, a service page or a product page or what we tend to call a landing page, is you can target a particular keyword per page. So the page I showed there for Urban Element isn't the page that they want to get found for Urban Element or digital marketing agency or anything else. It's the page they specifically want to get found for SEO Oxford. And somebody's put here, if you work across a number of industries, do you select one? You have to for that page. But if you are working in multiple industries, you just have something in navigation that says sectors. And then when you click on that sector, and you might work for construction, manufacturing, engineering, hospitality, you create a dedicated page for each of those sectors. And on the sector page that is for construction, you have whatever your service is, construction. So you might design lighting. So you'd have lighting design, construction. And then your other sector page for hospitality, you'd have lighting design, hospitality, lighting design, architecture. So if you just think one keyword per page is the general rule of thumb, possibly two if you're pushing it. You need a dedicated page for each of those search terms that you want to get found for. Somebody's asked how we actually amend that page title, and I won't be able to show you in Wix, but I can quickly show you in chat if that's, so I can quickly show you in WordPress if that's useful. So this is one of my clients called Premium Medical Billing. They are the startup business that started about 12 months ago. They only have one service page. And at the moment, we're targeting that page for the search term medical billing, pipe, Buckinghamshire, pipe, Oxfordshire, pipe, London. They're being too aggressive in how many terms they want to get found for. It's difficult to get found for medical billing, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire, and London all on one page, but they want to give it a go. If we search for medical billing, Buckinghamshire, and we scroll down, they're ranking number 3. So there they are, ranking number 3. If we search for them for Oxfordshire, medical billing, Oxfordshire, sorry, bear with me. They're ranking number 1. So medical billing, Oxfordshire, they're ranking number 1. London, they're not, I can tell you already. And for Oxford, so without the Shire, medical billing Oxford, they aren't ranking in the top 10. And that's because they don't have Oxford in their page title. They have Oxfordshire in their page title. So there's their page title, medical billing, pipe, Buckinghamshire, pipe, Oxfordshire. If they want to get found for Oxford, they should lose the Shire. But the problem with this client is they don't just want to get found for people in Oxford that want medical billing. They want to get found in a larger county. So my advice to them is they need more than one service page. You know, they might need to have a page that talks about their geographical coverage. But if they're sticking to one page, they are restricted to how many terms they get found for. But I said I'd show you how you can change the page title. So with WordPress, and apologies for non-WordPress users, you do /admin, or sometimes in the newer versions you do /dashboard. You're going to test me now because I'm going to have to remember what their login is. Fingers crossed that's correct. So we're now into the WordPress dashboard. They have a plugin called Yoast. I'm going to go to their page structure. So I've just clicked on pages on the left, and I'm going to scroll down to their service page. So that's the page I was looking at earlier when I said they get found for medical billing, Buckinghamshire, medical billing, Oxfordshire. I'm going to click on that service page. And there's a lot of things to consider here, whether the WordPress has been used using a Divi builder or Elementor. With all the content management systems, there's different ways you can build in it. But when I click on this, I should be able to edit that page. But the thing I'm interested in at the moment is editing the page title. So you'll see that plugin, Yoast SEO. And down here, you'll see SEO title. So there's their SEO title, medical billing, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire, London, and then their brand name at the end. If they categorically tell me they want to get found for medical billing Oxford because it's an affluent city and there's lots of doctors in Oxford and there's the JR and there's the Churchill, and that is adamant that they want to get found for medical billing Oxford, I would get rid of Buckinghamshire. I would get rid of the Shire. I would get rid of London. And I would change that page title to be purely focused on medical billing Oxford. And then you've got your keyword specifically in the page title. And in WordPress, I'd just click update and then we'd see that page different in the top. But let's just say I had clicked, let's just hypothetically say I had clicked update and I'd published it. And we're now seeing this page title here saying, sorry, go to services. Hypothetically, I did that. We'd now be seeing medical billing pipe Oxford pipe PMB. Shire, Buckinghamshire and London would all be gone. Their URL shouldn't be services. That should be, if we went for medical billing Oxford, should be medical billing Oxford. But it's not. If they did that, they'd have a better chance of ranking. They haven't, because they want their URL to stay services. And this is where we have to go back to what is it the client really wants and what we're able to do with the site. But in an ideal world, that / would be medical billing Oxford. Here, where we've got their H1, medical billing, that should have Oxford after it. So that the H1 is saying medical billing Oxford. But they don't want that because this one page has got to appeal to everyone at the moment and not just Google. So the point I'm probably poorly making, and I can address this more in the SEO chat, in the chat, is that sometimes there's SEO considerations and sometimes there's readability, user things. If we go back to the urban element example of SEO Oxford, and people land on our SEO page. So SEO Oxford, we've got SEO Oxford there, so we can be a little bit more lenient about not having it specifically SEO Oxford, but we still got Oxford there. We are alienating a little bit anyone who's found our site from London, from any other part of the country. They might be thinking, oh God, these guys only work with companies in Oxfordshire. The reality is we work with companies across the globe. But for an SEO reason, we have SEO Oxfordshire or Oxford in our page title. But the point I'm trying to make, guys, is before you think about content marketing or anything else, you've got to have this structure in place. If you haven't got the ability to edit or amend your WordPress or your Wix or your Weebly, or if you're currently building a site through a developer or a designer, if I was in your shoes, I would create a spreadsheet for them and give them a spreadsheet, which is your SEO site map. An example of that I'll bring up now. So this is for a client called Sparkling Minds. They're a startup business. They have just started a preschool nursery near Bicester. This is their website. They're a preschool in Bicester. As you can imagine, their page title is preschool pipe, nursery school pipe, Bicester, and then they've got their brand at the end. What we did with them is we created an SEO site map. So we said, okay, we want a home page, we want about us, we want a curriculum page, we want important details, we want contact us, etc. Under about us, we're going to have a secondary navigation. So under about us, you've got meet the team, our setting, testimonials, vacancies, meals. So in the secondary navigation on the spreadsheet, we list out, meet the team, our setting, family feedback, vacancies. We then give a keyword focus to each page. So the keyword focus for the home page is preschool. And then the secondary key focus is nursery school. And then we've got what the total search volume is for preschool. So 9,900 people search preschool nursery every month on google.co.uk. And 8,100 people search nursery school every month on google.co.uk. And they will have used that keyword planner, or they will have used something called SEMrush. In this spreadsheet, we then create the page title. So in Excel, we just write preschool pipe, nursery school pipe, Bista pipe, sparkling minds. We write the H1, the header one. So we say, welcome to Sparkling Minds Preschool. And the URL is, well, it's the homepage, so there is no URL other than the domain name. But we give that spreadsheet to their developer or their designer and say, that's how we want our SEO sitemap to work. Implement that into my web build. So if some of you on the chat are in the middle of a website build or a redesign, or you're just starting your new website, do your keyword research, apply a keyword to each of the pages you're planning in your site. If you're already thinking, I only had one page planned for my services, think more, because you might want to get found for more than one service. If you're into products, you want a page per product, and start thinking about an SEO sitemap before you start designing it or building the site, because this will dictate the keywords you're going to get found for, and the number of keywords that you're going to get found for. And hopefully most of us are comfortable using a spreadsheet, more so than possibly going into WordPress and playing around with page titles, URLs, 301 redirects, and H1s. I'm going to summarize where we've got to and then take you into the next step. Just going to stop the share for a second, see if there's any questions that have been asked that I need to address straight away. Let's have a look. Is there a blank template available? Well, hopefully that spreadsheet's helped answer that a bit. But again, I'll come back to that about some of the things I can perhaps share after this session or pass on to Ant that he can then email out, because I'm not going to be able to cover everything today, and there's going to be a lot of questions around some of these things I mentioned. So keep your questions coming, and I'll make sure if I can't answer it today, you can pick up the phone to me. I'm more than happy to chat over the phone, no charge. But I will take you back into the next stage now. And I'm going to do a small PowerPoint presentation just to sort of explain where we're at the moment. And can you let me know when my page is showing, and hopefully it should be keyword research at the top?
Yeah, that's looking good.
Okay, so we've done keyword research. We've got a landing page for the product or the service, which is that page title, URL, and H1. We're then going to look at content optimization, supporting content blogs, supporting social media and link building. And I'm just going to do a quick graphic to show how that looks. So in this instance, they're a timber company. They want to get found for timber decking, timber doors, timber fencing, timber flooring, timber supplies. We've done the keyword research. You know that there's 1,900 searches for timber decking per month. There's 2,900 searches for timber supplies per month. Relevance for this business out of 5 is 4 or 5 out of 5, because if they get found for that, they know they can sell decking. It's what they do. So is the search term relevant? It's an important question. And also in that keyword planner tool, it will show you how competitive it is, or if you've got a good opportunity of getting ranked for it. So just because there's good volume for it, you've got to check that it's relevant to what you do, i.e. if somebody lands on your site for that search term, you've got a good opportunity to sell to them. And then you've also got to make sure that it's not too competitive. There's no point going up against the likes of Amazon or eBay for a search term. So wanting to get found for books or toys or anything like that, it's too competitive. Just don't go there. So we then create this page, and we have timber flooring in the page title. We have timber flooring in the H1. We now need to think about writing 350 words of content on that page that's relevant to the keyword. So we've identified the service or the product. We've created the dedicated page with the URL, the page title, the H1, and now we've got to write 350 words of content with the relevant keywords. Now, Google has moved on a few years from when it was saying they wanted to see keyword density of 3% on every page. So a few years back, they were saying, if you write 350 words of text on your page, we want to see that keyword mentioned. My maths isn't great, but 3% of 350, 9 times. So Google a few years back was saying, if you're writing 350 words of text, which is a minimum, we want to see a minimum of 350 words, you've got to put your keyword in there 9 times, or 3% keyword density. Google's moved on from that, but you still need to get your keyword into that content 3 or 4 times. How do people feel about writing 350 words of text on just one service page or one product page? And if I asked you now to go and write 350 words about a service or a product, would it be a struggle, or would it be bang, I can bang that out with the keyword focus in mind?
We write a lot of bids. We bid for a lot of work. So we're used to writing stuff, and sometimes writing it in 1,000 words and sometimes writing it in 150 words. So I think we'd be okay. But all of this, I'm sat here in awe, John. This is all news to me. So yeah, I need to go back and look at my website.
Okay, so when you think about how do I write 350 words that is user-friendly, readable, and complementary to what I do, just think about introducing the service. So you could write 100 words to introduce your service. You could probably then break down what some of the benefits or the unique selling points are, and go to your suppliers, go to your friends, go to your family, and ask them, what is it you want to know about my service? You could probably get a testimonial within that content. So if you're talking about one of your services or one of your products, you've done the intro, you've done some bullet points about the unique selling points or the benefits, and then you've got a nice testimonial coming through. And in that testimonial, you've got the keyword. So we were really pleased with Urban Element. They undertook our SEO over the last year, and we've seen massive results. Suddenly, that testimonial has got your keyword in it, and it's boosting up your 350 words of content. It might be that you've got related services or related products. So on that same page where you're trying to write 350 words, you could talk about related products, other services. You might even do a synopsis of a case study, or the person on chat who said we work across many markets or different market sectors. You could have intro to the service or product, unique selling points, a testimonial, and then you could say, we work in the construction, manufacturing, and engineering sector. Click here to find out more about our work in that sector. But you can pad out 350 words quite quickly. But what I would say is, if you haven't got 350 words on that page, you're going to get penalized by Google. So a typical page has 350 words. It has a call to action. And the call to action is you've got to take them somewhere from that page. So it could be inquire now, it could be buy now, it could be book now, it could be free consultation, it could be a strong call to action that you're giving the user the next step. Because you've got to remember, they've searched SEO Oxford. So they know they want SEO, they know they want it from an Oxford company. They land on that page, you're going to have to take them to the next step or the call to action. The problem with that, creating one dedicated page, is your competitors are doing that. So if you're the only person creating one dedicated page with 350 words for a particular keyword, and you put it to Google and you're the only one that did it, you'd rank #1. But with your competitors also having a dedicated landing page or a service page, why should you rank higher than them? And that's where supporting content comes in. So now you've got to write case studies, FAQs, blog posts, and you've got to link them to your landing page. And I promise you, I'll give you some practical examples of this shortly. So dedicated page, supporting content. You then use your social media to link to your supporting content, which links to your landing page. And then finally, what you do is you get other sites that have got a good domain authority or are relevant to what you do, or there's some synergy to what you do. You get those websites to link to either your landing page or to your supporting content. And that is link building, digital PR, which I probably won't have time to go into detail on today, but I will touch on that. That probably sounds a lot to take in. So I'll go back to my startup business that a year ago wasn't ranking for anything. I didn't design their website. They came to me with a very simple website, and they said, we don't have the budget currently, John, to add new services pages. We don't have the ability to grow this. We are limited to what we've got. So we went in and used Yoast to change the page titles. At some point, we do need to change the URL, but this is a work in progress and it's the next step. And at some point, I'm going to have to persuade them to hedge their bets and either go for just Oxford or just Buckinghamshire or just London, because they're a startup business, and with a site their size, they should not be going for more than one geographic location, in my opinion. I've yet to win that battle, but we'll get there. But what they have done is they've written supporting content. So their authority page or their landing page is this page here. Their supporting content, for them, it's a blog. Other people might have case studies, other people might have FAQs. If we look at their blog posts, medical billing, medical billing, medical billing, medical billing. Most of their blog titles have medical billing in their actual title. And when we actually read the 350 word blog post, and a blog post has got to be minimum of 350 words. In an ideal world, I'd see 600 word blog posts, because 600 words is seen by Google as long form content. 350 is seen as the bare minimum. But if we get down to this bit of text, we've got an inner site link here for medical billing services. So medical professionals should not be expected to be billing experts. We all specialize for a reason. Premium medical billing specialize in managing the medical billing services. That inner site link is linking back to that landing page. So the supporting content in the blog post is linking to the authority page, and that is what's boosting that page's ranking. So the blog post or the supporting content is helping boost the authority page or the landing page. And I'll give you another example. We talked about fleet branding, Oxford. I'll make this quite quick, guys, then we can go to chat. So fleet branding, Oxford, there's my client there. They're ranking #1 and #2, but we know that not many people search fleet branding, Oxford. So what about vehicle graphics, which we know has got a much bigger search volume? Vehicle graphics, Oxford. So vehicle graphics, Oxford, 1,000 searches per month. Fleet branding, Oxford, 90 searches per month. Where do they rank for fleet graphics? They rank not #1, not #2. These are national companies, by the way. And Science Express are a big Oxford company. There's my client. #3 on organic. They have a dedicated page on their site, which is targeting vehicle wraps, sign writing, graphics. If we go to their blog, let's have a look. Delivering sleek fleet graphics for Hydrotex thing. If we look in here, there's an inner site link. So this link here is trying to get them boosted for fleet livery and branding solutions. Another inner site link there. And there's another link there. So these inner site links in their blog posts are linking back to their landing pages, which is why we're seeing them rank high for fleet graphics, fleet livery, fleet signage, van wraps, vehicle signage. And if we look at their journey, they implemented their SEO site map 12 months ago. If we look at their analytics, so this is just 2 months this year compared to 2 months last year. And the reason I've done that is I've tried to avoid the pandemic period. So in January, February last year, we weren't yet into lockdown. So I've tried to do a kind of similar period, but since they've implemented that SEO site map, their users have gone up by 700%. You know, new users, 710% increase. Sessions have increased by 1,800. Page views have massively gone up. Interestingly enough, their bounce rate, people leaving the site, has gone up. So some of that traffic that we've brought in is bouncing off because they didn't want an Oxford sign writer, they wanted somebody else. But they implemented their SEO site map 12 months ago. And that is what it's done to their traffic. And it's probably on that point I should probably stop talking and come back to the room. That last point is quite key as well, because SEO is not a quick game. SEO is 9 months, 12 months in the making. You get your pages correct, you get your keywords right, and you implement that into your site, you'll see a difference in 3 to 4 months. You won't see a big difference until 9 or 12 months. Look, apologies guys, because I've talked a lot there and I've covered probably too much for a 45-minute session. I'm more than happy, depending on how many people are on this webinar, to obviously follow up with a phone call or an email free of charge, no obligation. I really enjoy this stuff, and I love looking at people's websites and giving them a few key pointers. There's some fundamental basics that you can do, and then you're going to get into this wonderful world of SEO, and you'll see how big and how amazing it can be to your business. But I'll go over to some chats, and I'll let you lead me for a bit.
Yeah, well, wow. I mean, your passion for this topic screams out loud, John. So it's fantastic, and I've definitely learned a lot from this. So one question here: if you offer an international service, what do you do about geographic locations?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and the simple putting your geographic location, your page title, and your H1 disappears. So you stay generic. So you don't put a geographic preference on it. You're just SEO agency or search engine optimization agency, and you don't put a title. But your content needs to become much bigger. So your website needs to become much bigger. So you need more inner site links. You need more supporting content. And you need to rely on other people linking to you as that authority. So with Urban Element wanting to get found for not just SEO Oxford, but SEO as a whole, they reached out to their CRM partner, a company called Zoho, and they did a guest blog on Zoho's website and got a link back from Zoho into Urban Element. So if you're going for a national or international campaign, you can't just rely on page title, URL, and H1 and having one page and perhaps one blog post pointing to it. You need a whole mass of content driving people to this one authority page. But yeah, basically bigger site, more content, more links coming into your site.
And I guess, I mean, you mentioned call to action. You had a little CTA button on your graphic. But all of this is of no use whatsoever if you haven't got a clear call to action to convert this traffic. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly that. So it depends what your offering is and how your sales journey works. But if you're offering a free consultation, and it's something what I did for a dental surgeon is they do a free consultation before charging you $3,000 for a dental implant. That should be the call to action. You've searched dental implant Whitney, dental implant Bicester, you found that page, you go into it, you realize they're professional, they've got a nice setup. The call to action is book your free consultation.
Yeah, fantastic. Somebody's been writing a long question there. I'll go with the small one first while I read it. So, as a small business with limited funds, is it worth spending the money on an external website developer? How does a small business make that choice?
Okay, as a small business, you probably avoid the agencies. The problem is in the world of web development is you have a good web designer who makes your site look really good with the aesthetics and the graphics. You get a good web developer that makes sure it's functional and it works and it's speedy. Then you have an SEO person that makes sure the site is optimized. Now with an agency, you get all that skill in one place under one roof, but it comes with a big cost. So somehow you've got to find a web designer or web developer that has an SEO understanding and that you can drive them to do the right thing because you've got a commercial understanding of your business and you can apply that commercial understanding to that initial keyword research. So if you turn to the developer and say, I don't want you to tell me that I should have a 5-page website because that's what you're used to building. I want you to build me a website that can get me found for the following terms, and therefore I'm dictating to you that I probably need a 15-page website because I want to get found for 15 terms. I want you to tell me if you can create a drop-down navigation that allows me to have 5 product pages, 5 service pages. So if you, as the business owner, get an understanding of what your commercials are and what you want to achieve with SEO, I believe you can project manage a freelance developer or designer or one-man band. Plus get things like the software, and if it's okay with you, I'll send some links to you shortly.
Yeah, please.
Get some software, get Google Analytics, get SEMrush, get Screaming Frog. These are all benchmarking software that you can do a benchmark of where your site is, and then you can do or play with SEO and see what happens in 3 months' time or 4 months' time. I hope that answers the question. So it's find a freelancer that has an understanding of SEO, and that will be directed by you as to what you want to achieve with the website, more so than how you want it built and how it to look.
Excellent. Sorry, I have to write some of this down because all of this is relevant for me as well. So gentleman Matt has asked about a Squarespace site. So he's going through website which is launching and planning. Really keen on all the SEO stuff you've shared. I guess there's a question there. Do you think someone can take a Squarespace site to be SEO efficient?
Yeah, Squarespace is probably one of the better build sites out there, so it's a positive. I can empathize with what you're saying about the page speeds, and it is worth the problem with these bigger platforms is you never get to speak to a human, but it is worth trying to escalate the page speed to them and see if they can move you to a different server or hosting within the cloud. It might be that they've got you on the American kind of server rather than the UK and Northern Ireland server. So it's worth asking a question about the page speed. But what I would say is Squarespace, you can optimize. If your developer or your builder's using it, they should be able to access the page title, the URL, and the H1 easily enough. If they are doing anything with your URLs, make sure that they do a 301 redirect. So the old URL has to redirect to the new URL. So you go and you put in SEO friendly URLs, you lose what you had before, and the authority that's built up. So just make sure they do a 301 error. It might be one, Matt, that you just might want to ping me an email. I'm jon@ellardoutloud.co.uk. Ping me an email and I can give you a bit more of a technical answer on that. But Squarespace is not a bad platform to be in.
And building on that, I mean, you mentioned that I was all comfortable with most of this, and then you brought up these 301 redirects.
Yeah.
But I mean, if your website has been out there and you know that people can find it, if they really do search, they can find it, but you've never been using it to actually drive sales, then probably the URLs aren't going to be that key. People won't have saved them.
I mean, the biggest car crash anyone can take is when they completely change their domain name. So they've had a domain, they've had a site on it for 10 years, they rebrand themselves, or they name themselves something differently, they build a new website and they forget about that old domain, and they're pretty much starting afresh with that domain unless they've done a 301 redirect from the old domain. And that's losing all your Google trust or your authority with Google. Google, with any new domain, will sandbox that domain for at least 3 months and treat it suspiciously. So you start a new business with a new domain and a new site, you're already in a sandbox of Google for 3 months before it even will index you. So one of the things you could do if you're starting a new site or you're rebranding, you want a brand new website, is put a holding page up for 3 months. So a simple coming soon, brand new website to service the world of landscape gardening, based in Oxfordshire. Our new website comes live in 3 months' time. Give it a good get the URL index, get the site live. It's just a one pager, but the 3 months that you're building your new site, at least you've got that landing page getting indexed and getting past Google sandbox.
Another excellent insight. Fantastic. So we got a question here, Squarespace, and somebody is receiving lots of junk registrations, potentially from bots.
It depends if you got, depends how you've done your capture. It depends if it's secure. So just check that you've got an SSL certificate on it first. If you've got any forms, make sure you've got an up-to-date capture on it. And that's like are you human? You tick it, I'm not a robot. But ultimately, again, it could be based on where it's actually hosted. What I need to check with Squarespace is whether you have the ability to move your hosting away from the actual Squarespace server or not. So with WordPress, multiple people could host your WordPress. So if you fill out with your WordPress provider, you could move your WordPress site to another provider on another server, and you've got lots of options out there. With Squarespace, I don't know if you've got that option or not, so I'd have to look into that. Wix, I know you can't. Weebly, I know you can't. Squarespace, I'd need to check. Shopify, you can't.
Yeah, so I've had an experience of 123 Reg. I was working on a project and they wanted a landing page. So I was able to just throw up a quick landing page for them. When the project came to an end, I tried to transfer the landing page, even within 123 Reg. The client said, well, I'll take an account up. couldn't transfer it between users, never mind between providers.
Yeah. And it may have been an affordable option at the start, but the expense is in not being able to do anything with it and struggling to do something with it and getting through to no one.
Matt's question at the end there. Everyone's really keen on having one of your SEO sitemap templates, John.
Yeah, so what I'll do on that, guys, is it'll be almost like a blank spreadsheet. I'll put in some mock navigation, but more importantly, I'll put the character restrictions that you have. So header ones, URLs, page titles, they all have to be a certain number of characters. I'll leave that coding in the spreadsheet so that as you start typing out your page title, it will tell you if you've gone over the character length, etc., etc. And the same with the URL length and the same with the H1 length. Again, just going back to that key rule, don't dilute your page. Don't go for too much on that page. One, you'll break the character lengths and you'll get penalized. Two, you'll dilute what your ability to get found for anything.
Yeah, I mean, that we've only got a few minutes left. I think Judith would really like to call you. So when we share contact details, I think Judith's got lots of questions and she needs to understand her website better. So
Judith, put /admin on the end of your domain or /dashboard, and it will bring you up a WordPress login screen, or it won't. If you're on a PC, you can also right click when you're on your website and say view source. And then when you're viewing your source, just do a search to see if it's in WordPress or not. But standard WordPress / at the end, admin or /dashboard, all one word, and it should bring you up a WordPress screen or not. If not, ping me an email and I'll let you know very quickly.
Brilliant.
I'll just put my email address now in the chat.
So while you're doing that, John, I mean, this is our last of the current schedule of OxLEP Startup Club events. There will be at least 2 more in April. We haven't got those fully planned and date yet, but I'll be sending out an email to everyone that's been attending with a feedback request and, sort of, a request for what people would like to get in this startup club, because it's here to help everyone and to build connections across Oxfordshire. And you have done a fantastic job today, John. I've absolutely loved what you've been sharing. I've learned loads. I'm sure from the chat, it looks like everybody else has as well. And you've really come across and shown that you know what you're doing. So thank you very much.
No, absolute pleasure. And I appreciate everyone for coming, and do drop me an email.